Welcome back to the Private Parts of Wellness. I am Jessica Jolie. I am a nurse practitioner, hormone whisperer, biracial truth teller, and your guide through the sweaty, sexy, scientific, and sometimes sacred mess of midlife. In this episode, this is episode 2 in our Sixth Sense series, part of the Radical Pause season, where each week we focus on one sense, how it shifts with sex, hormones, aging, and identity. Last week we explored sight, and this week it's all about touch, the second step in the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding practice I use with clients, myself, and my own kid. Touch is where science meets intimacy. Kinky meets chemistry, and your nervous system gets a much needed check-in. Disclaimer: this podcast contains swearing at times, frank sex talk, some science, and truth about trauma, intimacy, and aging. While I am a nurse practitioner, I'm not your provider. I'm not a doctor, therapist, or kink educator. But I am a hormone-literate guide who knows how to listen when the body speaks. And for me, my body speaks lovely when it comes to certain fabrics. So intentionally, I'm wearing cashmere, and underneath I've got a silk bra on. I'm not going to show that to you, but it's there. And that is because your skin, my skin, is the largest organ. And it's maybe our most underappreciated one. It's a boundary, a communicator, and a sensory map of your life. It's made up of several layers. 3 of them are the epidermis, the dermis, and the hypodermis. And in those layers, throughout those layers, your skin holds nerve endings, hormone receptors, emotional memory, and chemical messengers. It's responsive, and it also never forgets. So a quick example would be high cholesterol or elevated lipids. I can tell sometimes by just looking at someone's eyes that they have a problem with cholesterol. It's these yellow bumps around the eyes, sometimes in the corners of the eyes, and they're called xanthoma. I can never say what they're called, but they're called xanthomas. I think that's how you say it. But they're these waxy bumps around the eyes, and that indicates usually high cholesterol or high lipids. When people have numb fingers, numb toes, that can be a circulation issue. And liver dysfunction can cause yellowing of the skin, itchy skin, or weird rashes. Same thing in pregnancy when women have gallbladder issues and they all of a sudden get really itchy. And it's more than just the stretching of the skin from a growing belly. In terms of arousal, because I'm always talking about sex, flushed cheeks and dilated blood vessels and skin sensitivity can indicate arousal. And the thing is that skin isn't just comfort, it's a biochemical event, and it activates your somatosensory cortex, which is a part of your brain that maps sensation. And this cortex also stimulates the vagus nerve, which helps us to regulate stress and hormones. This is also why things like acupressure and acupuncture work. Even if you don't believe in meridians and you think it's bunk, the skin talks to the nervous system. touch is an actual language. So let's talk a little bit about hormones, touch, and kink. And we can call it chemistry because hormones shape how we receive touch, how we crave it, respond to it, and sometimes want to avoid it altogether. Estrogen, for example, keeps skin plump, elastic, and sensitive. When estrogen starts to lower, and that can be a progression or it can be chemical or surgically, but when it starts to lower, the skin usually becomes thinner, there's less moisture, so it's less bouncy and less sensation. Testosterone actually will boost erotic sensitivity and the craving for physical connection. I'm not even going to get into oxytocin for this talk, but oxytocin can be very similar, and it's actually that bonding hormone. And, I will talk about it in a little bit. Progesterone, especially in pregnancy or premenstrually, like right before, can heighten or dull touch sensation, and prolactin, which will rise after an orgasm or breastfeeding, can make you feel calm and reduce your desire for more stimulation. So it's that kind of like, I'm done. Like, don't touch. Don't touch. Now, if we layer kink on top of that, kink isn't just about pain or control. It's about sensory orchestration. And it can be impact play, bondage, rope work, temperature deprivation. All of it alters your nervous system, and by design. It's why kink can be therapeutic as well, and it floods the body with endorphins. It then resets the response to touch, safety, and trust. So let's talk a little bit more about aging, touch, and society, because ageism and touch go together. And ageism's a real thing. And I think that we don't talk about it in terms of ageisms as much as we should. But for right now, we're going to talk about aging and touch. So, as I said, touch can change with age, but it can also change who gets touched and how. So the way that skin changes is that skin thins. We may bruise more easily. We're more sensitive to temperature changes and sensitivity shifts. And some of us need, and I say us because hopefully we're all aging, right? Well, some of us will notice that what we want as far as touch changes as well. So we may need deeper pressure to register sensation, especially if we're talking about like in our 80s and 70s. Others can become touch averse. And I don't think we should make assumptions on how somebody wants to be touched. We need to ask and explore that and discover it, either by ourselves or with partners. So weighted blankets, compression, even firm hugs begin to feel better for some people than penetration or other forms of sex. There's also that cultural piece. Older bodies are touched less. They receive less affection, less eye contact, less casual touch from loved ones, care teams, or even from strangers. And that lack of touch is not benign. It's not without consequence. Touch deprivation increases our cortisol level, our stress. It weakens our immune system. It raises anxiety and our depression levels. And we're not meant to live without contact, especially as we age. I think that's one of the reasons I used to do these workshops for people over 60. And when I first started them, I talked about New York City and our need to be touched, and how in almost every block, in every neighborhood, not every block, I mean, I may be exaggerating, but in every neighborhood, you're going to find two things. You're going to find a nail salon and a place to get a massage. And I'm not talking about happy ending massage. I'm talking about this deep pressure massage. And it's going to give you there are these little luxuries that ground people, connect them, and actually feed that touch hunger, especially in a city where there are so many people and there's as close and packed as we are, there's this huge division between us. I had mentioned before that this is the season of the radical pause, and the radical pause of touch isn't about a trademark method. It's just about returning back. And in this radical pause season, I want to invite you to begin to slow down. And in the sensory grounding technique of the 5-4-3-2-1 method, touch is that second sense. And in the practice, you're going to notice 4 things you can feel. And that can be that you feel your feet on the floor, the waistband of your pants, the warmth of your coffee mug, or the air on your skin. In fact, you don't need to love what you feel. You just need to notice it. And that's presence. That's regulation. And the presence of regulation that you get from touch. I want to give you other practical and pleasurable based touch exercises. And here I'm going to give you some that you can do alone and some that you can do with a partner. So the first thing to do is to try mindful touch, and that's touch without an agenda. If you have a partner, or even by yourself, if you're exploring erotic touch, it's allowing your skin to speak to you without the pressure of performance or orgasm. But it's just taking time to understand touch. If you want to play with pressure, some bodies do need deep contact, while others love that soft whisper of gentle fingers, like in the inside of the arm. So I invite you to play with pressure, vibration, not just for sex, but to stimulate circulation. And then for couple work, I want to tell you about a technique. One of them comes from The Passionate Marriage by David Schnarch, I think that's how you say his name. And he has a practice called hugging till relaxed. And the idea of this hugging till relaxed, it is, again, not a sexual practice, but it is a practice of receiving touch, receiving a hug, but also standing firmly on your own 2 feet. And he says in his book, emotionally fused people strain and struggle to regain their equilibrium without letting go. This is a way to be totally present and holding on to yourself while you're connected to someone else. So this hugging till relaxed is very basic. It is to stand on your own 2 feet, to put your arms around your partner, focus on yourself, quiet yourself down, way down. And he goes on to say, if you can quiet yourself while your partner is flooded with anxiety, you don't have to move away or make him or her feel differently in order to control your own emotions. So this is a practice where you're simply holding your partner and your partner is holding you, and you're noticing sensation. Again, touch will help you to bring in bonding hormones. And maybe that practice is to bond with yourself first. And if you do choose to bring it into sex, I want to invite you to practice extended foreplay. Because at midlife, that is not an option. It is foundational. Because your skin is not just the warm-up act, it is the whole main player of an erotic exchange. Where the brain is your biggest sex organ, or the strongest sex organ, the skin is maybe the largest, obviously. It's inside and out, if you know what I mean. Innies and outies. Anyway, that's that. If you are interested in this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 practice, I invite you to go way, way back to my mini episode where I walk you through the grounding practice and listen to it and see how it helps you. Let's just say that this episode was brought to you by the Radical Pause Salon, which is an intimate, no-shame space where we can talk about hormones, sex, aging, and what's really going on in our bodies. You gather the people, I bring the stories, science, and questions you've been wanting to ask. You can also find me on Discord and my Discord community, the Menopause Anarchist. I have a Substack, The Radical Pause. I'm not very active, but you know, it is what it is. I'm also on Instagram, The Private Parts of Wellness. And next week, we're going to be diving into sound. The sexy, the annoying, the overstimulating, and the sacred. But until then, notice the weight of your body, the feel of your clothes, the pressure of your breath, and maybe the way your skin is asking to be touched. If you like this episode, follow, share, leave a review, or leave a shout out with your friends in the chat group, even on the Book of Faces. This podcast grows by word of mouth. And so you telling somebody, hey, you need to hear this, that really helps. And if you screenshot your review, a share, or proof you subscribed, send it to me. And you can send it to me at jessica@ppwfnp.com. Or, you know, slide into my DMs, comment, you know, that situation, that sort of thing. And I will add you to my insider list, my email list. I think insider list is supposed to be like, you know, you're in the know. And I will also send you my sexy little lipid guide because cholesterol is horny and so are you. It's another episode. And until then, stay messy, stay curious, and take care of your private parts.